Trying to get back into a routine?
Dean Berg was 49 years old in 2006 when she found out she had cancer in both ovaries.
I thought I was going to die. So my husband and I, we began to think about casket versus cremation.
Berg is one of the more than 20,000 women in the U.S. who are diagnosed with ovarian cancer each year. In her doctor's waiting room, she was looking through stacks of information.
And then I found this Gilda Radner booklet.
Gilda Radner, the actress,
Right,
who died of
ovarian cancer.
And what did it say?
They had a bunch of different things about what causes ovarian cancer. And down in the bottom on this one page, use of talc in the genital area.
Baby powder.
Right.
Had you ever used it?
Yes.
How often?
Every day, since I was 16 years old.
Berg, who lives in South Dakota, logged onto an ovarian cancer website and started asking questions.
And who responds?
Alan Smith, the lawyer.
Alan Smith is a lawyer from Jackson, Mississippi. He told Berg he'd been researching the issue for years. And in 2009, they became the first to file a talc lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson and its talc supplier.
You're a solo lawyer taking on one of the biggest companies in the world. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Well, don't remind me of that now. But now that I'm here, it is very important to me that women be informed to make a decision about their health and safety.
Smith claims studies going back decades show that women who use talc, the main ingredient in Johnson's baby powder, have an increased risk of getting ovarian cancer. And Johnson & Johnson fails to warn women about it.
Baby powder is absolutely safe.
But Johnson & Johnson has fought back, defending its iconic product. Bart Williams is a lawyer representing the company.
The notion that Johnson & Johnson would sell that product knowing that it causes cancer in women is just outrageous.
After filing the lawsuit, Smith asked for all the company's paperwork related to the issue.
It's over 200,000 documents. When I saw the internal documents and the way that Johnson & Johnson talked about knowing the risk, I knew at that point that this was a really, really big deal.
Smith used some of those documents to help make his argument to the jury in Dean Berg's case. Among them, a 1997 memo from Johnson & Johnson's own consultant, who acknowledged that many studies did show an association between talc use and ovarian cancer. The consultant said the talc industry risked being perceived like the cigarette industry for, quote, denying the obvious. And Smith latched on to this. In 2006, the World Health Organization listed talc-based body powder as possibly carcinogenic. And as a result, Johnson & Johnson's talc supplier began to include that fact in the information it sends with every shipment.
When they send that talc by rail car in bags to Johnson & Johnson, it has a sheet on top of it. It lists the risks that genital talc use could possibly cause ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson has never passed that warning on to the public.
The jury in Dean Berg's case found the company negligent for not including a warning label on the bottle, but awarded Berg no money.
Even though we didn't get any money damages, the fact that 12 jurors in South Dakota looked at the evidence and said Johnson & Johnson should have warned the public about talc was big.
That verdict in 2013 paved the way for other lawsuits. More than 6,000 have been filed, and Alan Smith is connected to nearly all of them.
The co-defendant is wanted for 10 years.
In the past 18 months, 5 cases have gone to trial. Smith and his growing legal team have won 4, with juries awarding a total of more than $300 million.
Johnson & Johnson has lost yet another multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
Johnson & Johnson is appealing, and the company has had its own victories. It has won 1 trial, and a New Jersey court also sided with the company, throwing out another case. Johnson & Johnson attorney Bart Williams says the most credible science proves baby powder is safe.
It is plaintiffs' lawyers taking bits and pieces of science and trying to get people alarmed, when in fact what should be happening is that people should be relying upon and having faith in the scientific organizations that look at these types of things.
Williams says the plaintiffs cherry-picked the science and information from the internal documents, taking statements out of context. For example, that memo where the consultant said they risked being perceived like the cigarette industry, The consultant went on to say this would be a tragic misperception because the industry has powerful, valid arguments to support its position. And that sheet mentioning the World Health Organization decision that Johnson & Johnson gets with every shipment of talc, Williams says context matters.
In 2006, the World Health Organization, as you well know, said that talc is a possibly cancer-causing agent. Why would an international group say that if it's not true?
If you want to look at the products that are on their list as probable cancer causers, that includes things like red meat, eating potato chips, eating French fries, working the night shift, drinking really hot beverages. Those things I just mentioned correlate higher than talc with cancer. There's no warning for any of those products.
What's more, Williams says that just because some studies show a correlation between baby powder and ovarian cancer, that doesn't prove talc causes cancer.
An overwhelming majority of studies over the past 35 years have found an increase in chance of getting ovarian cancer after using baby powder, 30% increase on average. Why doesn't that concern you?
The Center for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, the National Cancer Institute, the Department of Health and Human Services, OSHA, have looked at every single one of the studies that you just referred to, and then some. And they've concluded that you cannot draw a causal connection between talc and ovarian cancer.
Alan, I'm just thinking common sense tells me that if something is bad for me, tobacco, I know it's linked to lung cancer because I've been told by every agency out there in the U.S., all the health agencies have said, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke. They're not saying that about baby powder.
Well, tobacco had to start somewhere.
But comparing the relative risk of getting cancer from cigarettes versus talc looks like this.
Here's the chart that Johnson & Johnson uses in trial. That's the risk with talc use, baby powder. That's smoking and lung cancer.
Let me ask you something, Kate. Is it as high a cancer-causing substance as smoking? No. But it is significant. And if I'm one of the women in that blue graph, it means everything to me.
Plaintiffs' experts say even a small increased risk could lead to a few thousand ovarian cancer cases each year. If that's true, then why has no U.S. government agency ever listed talc as a possible carcinogen? Back in the year 2000, there was a vigorous debate about talc among scientists at the National Toxicology Program, the division of the Department of Health and Human Services responsible for listing carcinogens. We tracked down the scientist who was in charge of that process, chemist Bill Jameson.
Do you think there is a link between talc and baby powder and ovarian cancer?
Yes, there is.
Jameson told us back then scientists voted during an initial review to list talc as a possible carcinogen. But after a public meeting that included input from Johnson & Johnson and the cosmetic industry, another group of scientists disagreed and the government decided not to list talc. Jameson thinks his agency made the wrong decision.
In your opinion, was talc not listed because of the science, or was talc not listed because of pressure from the industry?
I would say it's a little of both. It was mostly, again, my opinion, it was mostly because of the pressure, but there was also some doubt that the science was really strong enough.
Johnson & Johnson says it wasn't applying pressure. It was trying to educate scientists about a product that is safe.
Why not, in an abundance of caution, put a warning label on the iconic white bottle?
It's really important. You don't put a cancer warning on a product that doesn't cause cancer.
The company points out the FDA, which oversees cosmetics, has never required a warning label on baby powder. But Alan Smith argues to every jury that the FDA rules also say just the possibility of a danger is enough to warn women.
When there is a health hazard that may be associated with the use of the product.
But this fight is not just about science. There's another legal dispute underway. An unrelated Supreme Court decision recently said that where cases are filed matters. There has to be a geographical connection to one of the parties. All the recent talc verdicts have been in St. Louis, a jurisdiction the company believes is friendly to plaintiffs.
There's not one case that has gone all the way through a jury verdict in St. Louis that involved a woman from Missouri. They're all from out of state.
The company thinks the Supreme Court ruling will help its appeals. It may be years before the cases are resolved.
What do you make of Alan Smith?
I think he is a persuasive lawyer. I think what he and his team are doing with these cases is the wrong thing.
What do you think he's motivated by?
I think the motivation is making money.
Are you just a slick plaintiff's lawyer in it for a buck? You stand to win a lot of money if these cases move forward.
Perhaps, but to say that that's the sole motivation of why I got involved in this 17 years ago would be misinformed, as we have not seen a dollar to date.
So 10 years cancer-free.
As for Dean Berg, she's in remission now, cancer-free for 10 years.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.